People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, I'm Tatiana Sanchez in the GB newsroom. We start with some breaking news, and the Conservatives have removed the whip from senior MP Julian Knight after a complaint was made to the Met Police. That's according to a spokeswoman for Chief Whip Simon Hart. She declined to comment on the nature of the complaint, which is currently under investigation, and we'll bring you more on this story as we get it. Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove has given planning permission for a new coal mine in Cumbria. The plan was recommended by the Independent Planning Inspector. It's the first coal mine in the country for 30 years. The government says the coal will be used for the production of steel and not for power generation. But Shadow Climate Secretary Ed Miliband said the decision was terrible.
Opening a new coal mine marks the death knell for any claims this government has to climate leadership, and it won't provide the sustainable jobs we need. We should be going full pelt for the clean, green jobs of the future. But Rishi Sunak is so weak, being pushed around by his backbenchers, that he just can't deliver.
The Home Office says military personnel and volunteers are being trained to support services, including border force at airports and ports, as further strikes are announced. The Public and Commercial Services Union says around 1,000 border force workers will walk out over the festive period. Members working at Gatwick, Heathrow, Manchester, Birmingham and Cardiff airports will strike for 8 days from December the 23rd until New Year's Eve in a row over paid jobs and conditions. Minister for Immigration Robert Jenrick says the decision is unjustifiable and will ruin the plans of thousands of families and businesses across the country. The RMT union says a resolution to the ongoing strikes are further away due to what it calls a late intervention by the government. The comments come amid a wave of strikes across a number of public sectors. Ambulance staff will strike in a dispute over pay and conditions. Nurses, teachers and rail workers are due to take action in the coming weeks. Former Health Secretary Matt Hancock has announced he will not stand again at the next general election. In a letter to the Prime Minister, he said he was proud of his 9 years in government, making reference to the UK having the first COVID vaccine in the world. And the Lawn Tennis Association has been fined £820,000 by the ATP for its ban on male Russian and Belarusian players. The LTA say the ban was imposed due to the Russian invasion on Ukraine. The governing body has also been warned it could lose its ATP membership if it makes a similar decision next year. The ATP allows Russians and Belarusians to compete on tour events, but not under their national flags. TV, online and DAB Plus radio. This is GB News. Now it's over to headliners.
Doyle, and tonight I'm joined by the headliners A-team of Josh Howie and Leo Kearse. First, though, let's charge through the front pages and let's have a look at, we'll start with the Daily Mail. So the Daily Mail it's beginning to look a lot like a Christmas general strike. I don't like Xmas. They should write Christmas. Airport staff apparently have joined rail, road and ambulance for their walkout. Not good news there. The Telegraph now. Army fury as soldiers ordered to give up Christmas over strikes. We're going to be getting to that in just one moment. Thursday's Guardian is running with Gove ignores climate warnings to approve first coal mine in 30 years. Financial Times now. Xi's zero COVID controls loosened as evidence mounts of damage to trade. Thursday's Mirror runs with Hancock. Get me out of here. Looks like Matt Hancock won't be returning to politics as planned. And then Thursday's Times now. Christmas flights hit by airport walkouts. The Express has stopped this betrayal of our beloved Queen. This is another story about Meghan and Harry. And then we've got The Star, which goes with Cry God for Harry, England, and especially Kyle Walker, who's marking Mbappe. I don't know what that means, but it's a football story. Those were your front pages. And we're going to begin with the Telegraph, Josh. What's their front covers looking like tomorrow?
They've got a lot of news there. There's something at the bottom here. Sterling may rejoin Three Lions in Qatar. I think that's something to do with the currency markets.
OK.
Possibly.
Well, let's not focus on that. It's boring.
Yeah, let's get to the army furious soldiers ordered to give up Christmas strike. So everyone else is going on strike.
Yes.
And essentially, the poor old army who are legally not allowed to go on strike have been brought in. And they're complaining, which is rightly so. They get paid a pittance comparatively.
Yes.
And they're saying...
You get to kill people.
But that's
a perk.
So yeah, now they get to do it on the NHS.
Right.
Which is great, yeah.
So, but am I right in thinking this is to do with airports and passport officers are not going to be there? It's going to cause absolute chaos when people are going on holiday. I mean,
yes,
because if those queues are too long, people miss their flights.
Absolutely, and it's gonna create a big hoo-ha, but it's going to be like Christmas Eve, to Boxing Day, and then from the 28th
so the worst
to New Year's
possible
Eve.
time.
The worst possible time. Yeah. There is good news. I mean, it's going to be at Heathrow, Gatwick, Manchester, Glasgow, Cardiff and Birmingham.
Yeah.
But the good news is it's not Stansted, which is where I'm going.
Oh, so, well, you'll be all right then.
Yeah, phew.
Yes. So what do you make of this, Leo? I mean, there's a picture there of an army officer and she's serving what looks like, I don't know, finger food. They're like some sort of party food.
No, that's either a full English or a roast dinner.
It's a Christmas dinner to homeless people, I think.
But that's not what they're trained to do, is it, the army?
Yeah, but we don't have any wars going on right now. So, the great thing about the army is it's a hierarchical structure that will do whatever it's told that the nation needs. It's probably the last organisation in the nation that will actually do what the nation needs. Everyone else is going on strike, as you're saying. And these strikes, the border force strikes, are going from the 23rd of December, so even earlier than that.
Yes.
So it's going to be hugely disruptive. Nobody to check passports. So if you're a terrorist, it's a great time to enter the UK.
They all watch GBNews.
Yeah, thanks for giving them that tip, Leo. But I mean,
and it could actually reduce illegal immigration because the border force seem to purely exist to escort immigrants to our shores.
I mean, do you not think they have some sympathy, Leo, with all these people who are struggling financially, and that's why they're going on strike because they just don't have enough money?
Well, when do they get another job? If there's all these jobs, if they should get paid more, why do they get another job that's paid more? Like, I don't know. People seem to think when people go on strike, it's not because they're worth the money. It's because they know they can, put a lever. They can use their strikingness as a lever. It's disgusting. It's like a
very
mafia.
Unsympathetic of you. What do you think, Josh? Do you think that, there are some countries in the continent where there are laws in place which mean that important services, ambulances, travel, that kind of thing, have to have a minimum staffing even during strike period? Should we do something like that?
Well, this is what Sunak is now saying that he will be bringing in, is exactly that there has to be a minimum service provided.
Yeah.
I think that is a good idea. Labour is saying if they get into power, they would rip up any laws that sort of have anything to do with strikes.
Yeah, because they're funded by the unions. So obviously they're going to do what their mafia masters demand that they do. And these strikes, how convenient they're doing them over Christmas. I mean, there's no chance these people could just want an extra long Christmas break, could they?
I think it's particularly not convenient.
Yeah, but that's the point.
It's convenient for the people going on strike.
Well, we've got to move on now. Leo, what are the front cover of The Guardian for Thursday's Guardian? What are they leading with?
So they've got a picture of a black woman doing weights, and they've also got...
You're just assuming she's a black woman. Come on, mate. It's The Guardian. It could be
unless
anybody.
it could be a Canadian Prime Minister. But they've also got the main story is Gove ignoring climate warnings to approve the first coal mine in 30 years. This is the first new coal mine in the UK in 30 years. Which, I mean, it's great to see the UK actually taking steps to create some energy instead of destroy its energy sources
I mean, this is interesting.
send up the price of...
Well, climate activists are very, very angry about this because they're saying there's...
that's enough reason to do it right there. I don't even care if it's obsolete. Let's do it. Let's do more of them.
Well, they're saying that this will produce an estimated 400,000 tonnes of greenhouse gas emissions every year.
Most of that from climate activists crying.
OK, Josh, do you not think that this is... If the government is committed to net zero and, its environmental targets, this isn't odd.
It's not odd. It's hypocrisy. This plan has been around since 2014, I think. They keep on trying to bring it back. And then when we were hosting the last COP, they dropped it. Yeah. And now that COP's over. Now they're going, oh, yeah, now we're going to bring it back in. Yes, it's going to create jobs, but the whole idea of but they're saying, oh, it's going to actually end up to be neutral because then we won't have to import the coal that's needed for steel, except for the fact that steel has now progressed and it's much more environmentally friendly. They're using sort of electrolysis as opposed to...
And how do you get that electricity? Do you get it by
wind farms?
Do we all join hands?
Wind farms, yeah.
No, but you think wind farm. What about the wind's not blowing? How do you make steel when the wind's not blowing? No, the fact is that we're importing lots of coal for these industrial processes, and importing the coal generates a lot of carbon dioxide. Also, we've got carbon sequestration technology in this country, so it's actually a better place to mine and burn coal.
But this is at Whitehaven in Cumbria. Josh, you will concede at least that this is very good for the local community in terms of
it's going to create job creation, 500 jobs.
And let's face it, Michael Gove is the Levelling Up Secretary. We seem to have forgotten about levelling up, but this is clearly something that is within his mandate.
Isn't it nice? Some people will be like, oh, isn't this nice to see Tories opening coal mines?
Well, yeah, exactly. They haven't got a great record on that one.
Yeah, you can't make people happy. You close the coal mines, they'll cry. You open coal mines, they cry. What do you want?
Are all the mining centres? Are they all going to start doing big brass bands? Yay, Tories! Brilliant.
I suppose what you're saying is that Margaret Thatcher was a major proto-environmentalist.
Yeah,
that's what she was doing.
Ahead of her game.
Yeah. So it's really left wing, actually.
Yeah. There's going to be more sons in the north who want to be ballerinas.
Yep, nothing wrong with that. I did ballet as a child.
So did I.
Look how I turned out. Right, moving on now to Thursday's Financial Times. Josh, what have they got?
They have got Xi's zero COVID controls loosened as evidence mounts of damage to trade. Of course, there's going to be evidence of damage to trade if they're closing down all the factories. But it's really about saving face for the government. They're trying to say, no, we've been looking at the evidence and the time and the situation, and we're all about optimising. And really, they're terrified of a population who might actually go, wait a minute, we don't like living under this despotic state.
Well, those people have been living under a despotic state for a long time. But
because they had an exchange. There was a contract with that regime, and the government fulfilled that. Locking them away for months on end is not fulfilling their side of the contract.
So is it the case then that Xi's government has finally realised that actually the power of the people can be pretty scary? I mean, there's a lot of people in China. If they all decide to turn against the government just doesn't stand a chance, really.
And the people who've been rioting, like in Guangzhou, places like that, are the ethnic Han, so the majority is Han population, and they're middle class, so they're people with some influence, and people that can't easily be sort of taken away to torture camps and killed and made to make iPhones.
So we're all agreed that this is a good thing. Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing he's having to... The question is whether it's going to be enough to appease... if they've had a taste of their power, usually that's not enough to actually sate people. So whether it's going to be enough to actually go, all right, then fine, we'll go back to...
But they're trying to save face in the way that they do.
But it's going to be a bad thing for Europe, unfortunately, because global energy prices have been kept low by the fact that Chinese industry has been tanking. So China hasn't been sucking in all the liquefied natural gas from around the world, and if Chinese industry surges again, we could be in real trouble with our energy crisis.
Well, Leo, I want to ask you about the front cover of the Mirror now. A picture of Harry and Meghan there, but Hancock seems to dominate.
That's right. So Hancock will not stand again as an MP.
He was tweeting the other day saying he would.
Yeah, no, he's not. I've got more on this story. He says he wants to. I mean, he's making the classic sort of celebrity, smashy and nicey charity worker thing. He's all like, oh yeah, so I don't want to be an MP. I want to do more work for. I want to do work for dyslexic children. and make sure they're because they're getting a raw deal from the education system.
What's wrong with that, Leo? That's surely...
It's not. He wants to make loads of money. Apparently made 400 grand from being on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So he wants to make more.
Wait, isn't he giving that to charity, though?
He gave a sliver of it to charity.
Oh, okay.
And it's probably one of these charities that gets funneled, like all charities these days, it just gets funneled back into your pocket.
So, but isn't there something to this, I think, Josh, he's experienced this other potential side to his character. He was more popular than people anticipated. Everyone was saying that he would be voted out within the first week. Came third. So maybe he's now got a taste of that. Maybe he'll release a single.
Well, exactly. He's saying there's exciting opportunities here. So there's The Masked Singer, Love at First Sight, British Bake Off. Although he is actually saying that he's not going to do any reality TV. I don't think that's true. I think he absolutely
I think he'll
will.
do like an exercise video because he's quite, he's spry, isn't he?
I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, but he does all that.
I think you're revealing something about yourself there.
Well, no, I'm just saying, there's lots of footage of him running about doing press-ups.
If you say so.
It's kind of...
Have you seen any footage of him doing press-ups?
No, but Dominic Raab is... if you're looking for a Tory minister's buff... Yeah, Dominic Raab.
Very much.
That's who you look up to, is it? When you're working out, you have a little poster.
No,
I
think Hancock will be the next Mr. Motivator. I think that's the way he's going to go.
Oh, my.
I mean, that's my feeling about it. Anyway, going to go on to the front cover now of The Express. Josh, they are very much not like The Express to run a royal story.
No, a big day. This is the day Netflix are releasing their documentary, finally.
Yes. We've all seen the adverts, of course.
We've seen the adverts, thousands on... If you watch this channel, you might have seen it once or twice. It's going to come out, and finally we're going to get to see it. So they're saying that this is basically a betrayal of the Queen. They made a deal with the Queen that they would sort of hold up the institution of the monarchy.
So they actually had a verbal agreement not to do this kind of thing when the Queen was alive.
Yeah, but they were filming that documentary before her death, so, I mean...
Right.
Yeah,
this is welching.
Yeah, but she can't enforce her side of the contract now. It's like, when...
Yeah, but when you make a contract with the Queen, you're making a contract with the Crown. It's not just the Queen, it's the whole royal family, and the Crown is very much still...
Well, they should have checked the small print in that. If it's a verbal deal, I think, if you're going to have fiddly things like that, then it gets, bequeathed to King Charles.
I'd love to see them on Judge Judy about this and get them to resolve it.
About their
that will be, that's their fate.
I have no doubt they'll be doing
20 years' time, when they've exhausted every single other media opportunity, that's where they're going to...
And then they're going to go in the jungle.
Well, apparently the Harry...
Jungle first, with Hancock.
Yeah, with Hancock.
Best of special.
Apparently the trailer misrepresents imagery. So they have photographs supposedly of the paparazzi harassing them. One of the scenes is from the Harry Potter premiere, where you can avoid the paparazzi by not attending the Harry Potter premiere. I'm not even sure.
No, they did. They did a bunch of stills. They compared them, and they were all different other events.
And there was also another one that was supposed to be this intrusive photographer trying to sneak in and take a photo, but it was a photographer they'd hired. So they're completely lying just to say, and then that Meghan's crying, blowing her nose on a Fendi scarf. You know what I mean?
Well, let's be honest, Leo, you're still going to watch it.
Throwing a Fabergé egg at a servant because she breathed too loud.
You're definitely going to watch this show, though, sure.
Yeah.
There we go.
Just to hate it.
Yeah, you're going to hate watch it. Yeah. OK, coming up then, we've got a quick break now.
Bye to our fans.
Join us in 2 minutes. We're going to be discussing why the US electoral system could see a massive overhaul, why Albanians are speaking out against discrimination, and why the BBC is in trouble for its lack of impartiality. See you in a moment.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers with me, Andrew Doyle, and I'm still here with the Headliners A-team, Josh Howie and Leo Kers. So, Albanians are feeling discriminated against this is about immigration, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, very smooth. So, Albanian ambassador hits out at campaign of discrimination amid small boats row. This is, his name is Quirjako Quirko. Is that racist if I say that sounds a bit like a Star Trek character?
That's definitely racist.
That's racist.
But luckily you didn't say that, you simply asked
I just was just curious if it was. Please don't send anything in to us, Albanian ambassador. May the force be with you. So he is basically... Look, it's all been kicking off.
Yeah.
There's all these Albanians. They're basically making up a third of the people who are coming over... The 12,000 of the 44,000 or so.
Right, but the claim is that this is 2% of Albanian men are now...
Yeah, and he's saying that that's not true.
Right. Is it not true?
Well, he's saying it's not true.
OK. Do you think it's not true?
No, I think it might be true.
OK.
Yeah, I think...
So in that case, given that Albania isn't at war...
Yeah.
The likelihood is that most of these are, in fact, economic migrants.
Absolutely. Some people would argue that they are criminals, or the majority of criminals, and it's like... I would argue that the majority are over here for economic reasons that aren't necessarily related to drugs.
Yes.
But the
drugs. Why are you bringing drugs up? Is it because most of them are coke dealers?
Well,
actually, the Albanian ambassador complained that a lot of them are being stereotyped as cocaine dealers, when in fact a lot of them are also pimps.
Nice to know that. Yeah, I think everyone's been watching a lot of Taken. Too much Taken.
So look, but the point is this: surely there is an issue here, isn't there? Because if it is economic migrants, not refugees. Yeah. Then that's surely something we have to address, isn't it? I mean,
totally, absolutely.
It's not racist to say so.
No, but can I just say one thing? The interesting thing, one more thing, which is that the people who have claimed asylum here, who are from Albania, 51% of those people were given asylum.
They were
approved. Why? That's what. If they're a safe country.
So Leo, you've got the answer, right?
I've got the answer.
Yes.
So basically, they say we're victims of modern slavery. We've been trafficked for slavery, and then they know how to game. They know the right things to say. Like when you're down at the job centre signing on, they know the right things to say to get the payout, to get to stay.
Really? I mean, are there any studies into that? Do we know that to be sure? I mean, could it not be the case that half of the people are in fact fleeing from some kind of persecution that we don't know about?
In Albania?
No, but that's not necessarily true, because it also says here that people who do, just because they've been victim of a crime, doesn't mean that they do actually get asylum status. So that's what the minister says.
There's various ways that you can game the system to I mean, if you're from a country where Christians are persecuted, you say, I've converted to Christianity. There are so many different ways.
That's not what's going on here.
That's not what's going on, but there are various different ways. So I'm not saying this is the only way they game the system. I'm saying the system is broken and it's so full of holes. And there's an industry of human rights lawyers who know how to work the holes, the loopholes in the system. So basically, we need to tighten up the system. Sweden has zero immigration from Albania. Sweden just has a list of countries that they say are safe countries, so we're not taking any asylum applications from those countries.
Because people who are supportive of the Albanian asylum seekers will say that the 51% record is proof that, in fact, the system is working. But then you're saying that the system itself is...
It's a Rorschach test.
Right. OK, well, there we go. Let's move on now to the Telegraph. And a distant member of the Dutch royal family has tried to take over Germany. Leo, it sounds made up.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. We'll see how the trial goes. But a German prince with suspected business links to Britain, there's some sort of fund that he's associated with in Britain that makes money. He's been arrested in connection with an extremist plot to overthrow the country's democratic republic and install him as king. So prosecutors are alleging that Prince Heinrich XIII of Rus...
No, his real name is Prince Harry.
Yeah, that's what he's moved on to.
Yeah, he's getting desperate now.
Well, he's a German prince, technically.
He is German. Yeah.
The next season of Harry and Meghan is going to be a cracker. Now they've introduced...
This guy said they were going to storm the German parliament.
Yep.
They said that they were inspired by the January 6th Capitol riot,
which failed. I don't know how you'd be inspired by something that was so obviously... And this is the thing. This has been painted as a serious coup attempt, as the January the 6th riots were. But, if you're a crazy crackpot conspiracy theorist, minor royal with some pals, you can't just take over an intensely militarised, powerful government.
And this guy claims that he is an ancestor or descendant of someone who had a legitimate claim to the throne 300 years ago. It's a bit like when, there's a couple of people who claim they're the rightful king of Scotland, right?
Yeah,
and they can trace their lineage back.
And they pull out the Magna Carta or whatever and say, look at this line. And it's like, well, yeah, but we've got other
Yeah, it's 2022 now. But also, what I like about this story is they mention that this prince has a distant relative who was married to one of the ABBA singers. So there's an ABBA connection to all of this.
Yeah. Well, I think that validates him. Now it's serious.
I mean, that is serious.
Now it's getting real.
Yeah. Do you think they were involved in the plot?
Yeah.
We're just gonna say it.
But there has been an issue with, particularly in the German military, is a rise in sort of far right. So, I mean, obviously Germany's got a bit of a dodgy history when it comes to that kind of thing.
But is this Prince character far right?
Yeah, I mean, he's fueled by sort of conspiracy theories, and some of which are probably not so much conspiracy theories, but just, things that... Because there's been huge demographic shifts in Germany that have really fueled the far right and fueled sort of anti-immigration, conservative groups that want to preserve German culture. And there's nothing... they've got a bit of a point, because there have been... I mean, people in Germany are leaving because they've had a huge influx, 1.5 million Islamic immigrants, which is rapidly changing.
Yeah, but Leo,
culture.
like if you want to make those points politically, that's one thing. But to get a bunch of ABBA fans and people dressed up in armour and storm the German parliament,
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying there's cultural and social shifts underpinning all of these this drift towards the far right.
They had some serious people. They had like their equivalent of the SAS, like an officer who was in part. They had an ex-judge give them the layout of the government.
So this is a big
physical. So they had it was the biggest raids. 3,000 police officers were involved.
So there's going to be
20 suspects arrested.
Yeah. So 3,000 police officers were involved in shutting it down.
Oh yeah.
They weren't going to.
Yeah. That would have been a bit more serious.
I think it's the 20 suspects didn't have much chance.
We do have to move on now to The Guardian. And apparently there could be a serious shake-up of the US electoral system.
Yes, US Supreme Court hears case that could radically reshape elections. OK, let's go. Essentially what's happened is, let me go back to the beginning. Yeah. There's a country called America.
Yes.
And they've got a government, and then they've got, like, different states, and those states are controlling, they want to say, like, which regions people can vote in, but normally the state's legislator and the justice system will actually say, yes, you can create this many regions and whatever.
Yes.
And what's happened is they're trying to, the Republicans are trying to take it to the Supreme Court to say, we don't want those judges at that local federal level, that local level, to make those judgments. We want it to stay within the actual local government, and they can decide.
And this is North Carolina, which is a Republican state.
Yes.
And the point here is that if you grant the powers for the local lawmakers to draw up the electoral lines, to run the elections themselves, you're asking for gerrymandering.
To validate them.
Or the gerrymandering is much more likely to happen. Is that the case, Leo?
Yeah, and you need to have that separation of party and then the sort of political apparatus.
Yes.
And this would allow the parties to have much more influence over all those election results.
So why is the GOP bringing this then? Because surely that will raise... Well, no, yeah, obviously, because
they like influence over election results.
Yeah, but they don't. But why make it so blatant? I mean,
it's America. That's what they do.
Yeah,
they don't know subtlety.
And it's not just America, but anytime politicians want to do stuff, they're not exactly subtle about it. I mean, look at Michelle Moan. It's, you know, I mean, you couldn't really be more blatant.
Did you really have the boat called the Taxpayer, or did someone fake that? Is it fake? Did you see the picture?
I didn't see.
She's
the
on
picture.
a boat, her boat, and it's called the Taxpayer.
I think you saw a meme on Twitter, Josh. And
all right, I'm a bit. I'm easily gullible.
Maybe it is true. We'll check that out in the break. Anyway, the Times now. The Culture Secretary is calling out the BBC over impartiality. Not the first, Leo. Lots of people have done this in the past, but they're sort of suggesting that the BBC isn't doing all it should as the state broadcaster.
Yes, so the Culture Secretary, Michelle Donnellan, has said that the BBC has a great way to go in impartiality. So basically a Tory government is criticising the BBC for an anti-Tory bias, which, you know, you can understand why they want to pick that hole. But they really do have a massive point. I mean, if you look at, looking at comedy on the BBC, I think they did a survey, and 98% of comedians who displayed a political bias on the BBC were Labour or left wing, and the 2% was Jeff Norcott. So you know, it really is a ridiculous bias in comedy, which is obviously the thing that I care about. But there's other things as well. So Gary Lineker tweeted about. He's a BBC employee, and he tweeted about donations, Russia donating to the Conservative Party. It was unfounded. Emily Maitlis didn't meet standards on accuracy when she was talking about Dominic Cummings, and also more sort of nefariously, more evilly, the BBC had enormous editorial failings when dealing with the story about anti-Semitic attacks on Jewish students, which they actually blamed the Jewish students. They spread these lies that the Jewish students had been Islamophobic against the attackers, which they hadn't.
So much more serious when it's a state broadcaster where it is mandated that they are impartial.
Yeah.
And they keep getting caught out, Josh, don't they? I mean, they also had them misquoting a rape victim in order not to misgender the attacker. And so there's obviously not so much a political bias, I would say, as more this kind of culture war bias.
Absolutely, and it's coming through the new. You know, there are parts of the BBC that I enjoy. Yeah. But the news has been the real problem, and we actually covered the anti-Semitic story on your show on Free Speech Nation like a year ago, and now Ofcom have found them to have made significant editorial failings. Finally, whatever. But on Monday, you had. Did you listen to Hadley Freeman's interview on Women's Hour?
Yes.
And it was really funny because she's talking about how, like, The Guardian failed and wouldn't allow her to report on trans issues.
Yes.
And then she brings and she was like, and Women's Hour also hasn't, because they haven't interviewed, like, Helen Joy, her book's like a bestseller. They haven't done all these things. And it was funny because they got very defensive and were like, well, this was before my time. But they've been terrible as well.
They have. And, you know, everyone I speak to who's worked at the BBC or works at the BBC says this is a reality and everyone knows it. But how do you sort of detoxify it? Because eventually it is an ideologically captured.
Well, they said they have a plan to deal with it. This is what they say. But there is a way to go about solving the problem. And I'm just wondering if either of you guys have been approached recently.
I've got a plan to deal with the BBC.
You've been approached by the BBC?
I've got a plan to deal with the BBC. Get rid of the BBC. Why, when we're in a cost of living crisis, are we paying? How much is the licence fee? I don't pay it, so I don't know.
To be fair, though, I mean, I think the heads of the BBC have acknowledged that the licence fee is not a long-term sustainable option. That's something, and that's something that the Culture Secretary is saying as well. So it is going to go.
Right.
It just depends what kind of model the licence goes to. I don't think the BBC will disappear, but I think it will evolve into something else, right?
It's a used car dealership in Swindon.
Yeah, good idea. Thanks, Leo. Now, we have reached the halfway point of the show. We're just warming up. Join us after the break, and we're going to be talking about why young people don't want jobs. Can't think why that could be. Why children's immunity has dropped, and why we won't be seeing this guy fighting crime on our streets.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers. Let's get right into it with the Daily Mail. Young people not wanting to work. Josh?
I accept your apology, Leo.
I didn't apologise.
Yeah, well, let's continue.
What was that? Were you having a squabble during the break?
And I'm fine with it. And I accept his apology. Anyway, almost 250,000 young people who are currently not working say they never plan to get a job, and 2/3 complaining it's too difficult to get a good job, a survey has revealed. So this is 18 to 24-year-olds, a poll of them found a staggering nearly 250,000 that basically say, yeah, they're out of a job right now, and they're saying, yeah, probably not going to get a job.
Well, wait a minute. You can't just choose not to get a job, because if you don't get a job, you can't eat.
Well, you can live with your parents and you can...
What?
You can. If you know how to work the benefit system, which is, lockdown introduced people to the idea of getting free money from the government.
Yeah, but that was in lockdown when they were giving furlough schemes.
But people got a taste for it, and like a tiger, like a tiger that's had a taste for human flesh, they now want it. So
but they don't have it. The furlough scheme is no more.
Oh no, but there's another thing called the benefit system that you can get everything. You can get a house, you can get money.
You have to prove need.
Yeah, you have to prove need by faking need.
I don't understand this. The idea that all these young people, you remember what it was like to be young. Josh,
No.
No? Well, I'll tell you, you were keen to get work. You were keen to, get out there and make
to move out, and
you wanted independence.
I did. I wanted to get out of my boarding school. Back to my parents' house, where I stayed till my 30s. But this is actually a quite serious thing, because half of those who are working receive financial support from their family, and that's up to 50% who live in London. So what they are earning isn't obviously enough to sustain them.
I'm sorry, if I tried to move in with my mother, she would have made me pay for one thing, and she would have made me do work.
And my mum made me pay.
Psychologically, though, that's different.
It scarred me.
And people have young people, according to this article, have this sort of sense of entitlement that they deserve. They've got unrealistic expectations about what sort of job they're going to be able to get. Loads of them, 15% want to work in entertainment or the media, whereas that's 2% of
Don't do it. They all want to be pop stars, right?
Yeah. Nobody wants to put in the graft. So many jobs you got to start at the ground floor and work your way up, whatever it is.
Well, I hope these parents don't let them get away with this. And don't let them come and live in their houses and stuff like that.
We need the workforce, to be honest. There's too many job openings for how many people we've got, so we need lots of immigration. Why don't we get some of these people to migrate from their bedrooms to the workplace?
This kind of story really makes me sound quite right-wing. And, it really does. I hate laziness. Anyway, let's move on now to Thursday's Telegraph. Some of the more obvious consequences of lockdown. Leo, what's this?
Yeah, absolutely. So lockdown may have left a generation with an immunity debt. So basically, because we've had, this is the third Christmas that we haven't had a lockdown. We've had 2 years of lockdowns over the winter. So young people haven't been exposed to bugs. Obviously, during lockdown, nobody was getting the flu, nobody was getting strep A, all these bugs that go around. And now flu hospitalisations in young children are nearly 20 times as high as last year. And this is right at the time when the NHS is falling apart at the seams.
Children need the bugs and the germs, and they need to interact. And
exactly. And it provides a sort of natural immunity, and it boosts your immune system if your immune system is getting worked. If you lock people away in these bubbles, then they're not going to get exposed to those bugs. And now they're coming out and mingling, and we've got a winter where these bugs are flying through. And there's been horrible deaths amongst young people.
Yeah, I mean, very serious, Josh, because young people dying needlessly because of the immune issue.
Absolutely, and the worst thing is that actually that there's interest on it. That's what they're arguing.
What do you mean by that?
But basically, the extra, because now it's these diseases wouldn't have spread that far. Before.
Yeah.
But because so few people have it in their system, they're now sort of increasing, not exponentially, but much more than they would have normally, which then makes the situation worse, So there's a slight sort of spiral effect.
Well, what they are saying is just, parents need to be really vigilant about these symptoms, like be aware of what the symptoms for strep A are, and just make sure that you see, do something about it.
And also be aware of when governments try to take away your rights and introduce lockdowns, so next time you don't let them do it.
Yeah.
Like, there were some of us, like me, I don't know if you two were, but I was out protesting against the government. If everybody had done it, we wouldn't have had these stupid lockdowns that are now killing people.
I was busy, Leo.
I was living at my mum's.
Nobody was busy. That's the thing, nobody was busy. I only did it because I wanted to walk.
I was out walking twice a day because the government said you had to.
Right.
Or something like that. You were allowed to walk twice a day.
I was having a mental breakdown because of homeschooling.
That would drive anyone to distraction.
This was my hairline at the beginning of COVID, and this was my hairline at the end of COVID.
So you've got to give us a break, Leo. Thursday's Independent now. What's this about buffer zones at abortion clinics in Northern Ireland?
So they've had a ruling. The UK Supreme Court ruled on Wednesday that the Northern Ireland bill did not infringe on the free expression of opponents of abortion. This is a buffer zone ruling.
What does that mean, though, just a buffer zone?
They're trying to stop people. They're putting a buffer zone around abortion clinics that stop anybody protesting.
People standing up with all the signs.
So the protesters who have the sort of signs with like images of aborted fetuses and screaming at women as they go into the abortion clinic. And what they're saying is you can't do that, basically.
Or you could do it elsewhere. Like, you can't do it in front of. They have a zone where you can't do it.
So to what extent is this a freedom of speech conflict?
You tell me, Mr. Person who wrote a book about freedom of speech.
Well, I'm asking you because I want to know if you've thought about it.
Of course
this does set a precedent. If you're not allowed to... Normally you're allowed to demonstrate wherever you want within... there's certain limitations and stuff under the policing bill, but this means you won't be able to demonstrate where it's actually most... impactful.
The only thing with that is, where the freedom of speech line ends, of course, is when it goes into criminality such as harassment. Could it be argued, and I'm sure it has been argued, that women standing directly outside abortion clinics shouting at women going for abortions, that crosses the line into harassment and therefore isn't a freedom of speech issue?
But it could. While there's a sort of harm issue with freedom of speech, so your freedom of speech stops where it harms someone else.
Exactly.
In this case, it could be stopping harm to a baby, to a fetus.
If you believe that the baby has human rights, which of course the pro-choice campaign do not believe.
And that's
the ethical conflict here.
And they describe abortion in this as healthcare when it's killing someone. I believe in access to abortion, but I don't think we should pretend that
it's
anything
it's killing
other.
someone.
Yes,
it depends
it's killing
on
a viable fetus. I think after 15 weeks.
But Josh, do you think that this is fair enough in terms of protest? You think a good comparison would be the Westboro Baptist Church picketing funerals in America, and of course they're allowed to protest, but it was so sort of egregious and within the area of the funeral that it crosses that line, doesn't it?
Well, that's certainly what the court has found.
Yeah.
The judgment. What's interesting now is because this was a Northern Ireland bill.
Yeah.
Now this is actually going to impact a similar Scottish
bill. Because of the precedent.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Okay. Well, Thursday's Telegraph now.
So don't worry about condoms in Scotland.
Thank you for that, Josh. Moving on to New Zealand. Leo, this is a New Zealand story. This is about a child and the parents refusing vaccinated blood.
Yeah, so parents, basically this child was due for heart surgery, I believe it was.
It's a very serious condition.
Very serious condition, potentially life-threatening, and they refused an urgent blood donation for their child because it was from a COVID-vaccinated donor, so they believed then it would have the COVID vaccine in the child's blood, and, they believe in all the worrying conspiracy theories / legitimate concerns about the COVID vaccine, and they wanted to keep their child's blood free from the vaccine. But obviously this is you've got to weigh up the sort of probabilities of damage, and having a heart condition that could kill the child is obviously more serious than potential concerns around the COVID vaccine.
So, and that's what the High Court judge said.
So the High Court judge has basically said the state has given state custody of the child to give it
in healthcare matters. Yes, but it should be pointed out that the parents were also saying, look, we've got all this blood that's non-vaccinated. Yeah. So why don't you just use that?
But the hospital and the health authorities were saying that may not be sufficient.
That was their excuse.
They were saying
that was their excuse for it. They don't want to set a precedent, basically.
I know, yeah, it would set a precedent where, then other parents would want that, and all of a sudden you've got a complicated, expensive system with, 2 sets of blood.
But there's also all sorts of reasons why people might deny healthcare to their own child, probably religious reasons.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Right, exactly. So that's not a precedent you want to set, is it? Because actually the faith of the parents shouldn't be as important as the health of the child. And when it comes to the conspiracy theories around the vaccine, well, I mean, as the High Court ruled, these are conspiracy theories.
That's what they're saying. But, of course, there is evidence about complications or side effects or whatever. It isn't as clear-cut as people want it to be. And it should be pointed out, the mother's a midwife. She's not an idiot. She deals with life and death, and
so you're concerned about this ruling?
She's got medical training.
I'm concerned about the precedent it sets for your child, and I'm concerned about children being needlessly given the COVID vaccine when it's unnecessary, when it's proven to actually have more of a negative impact than the positive impact.
So you don't accept the health authorities saying that they would need more access to other blood products that may not be within the.
I think the most important thing is this child's going to get the surgery now.
Exactly, which is very important.
But there is a worrying creep into, the SNP, for example, the Named Persons Act wanted to make all children the actual sort of property, the ward of the state rather than their parents.
Yeah, I think parents that's the SNP. They're the most authoritarian political party that's ever existed.
Parents are generally, maybe not in every case, but they're generally the best advocates for their children.
OK, Thursday's Express now. And RoboCop has been stood down in San Francisco, thank goodness, right?
Yeah, well, we covered this, I think, about a month or so ago.
Scary.
No place for killer robots. San Francisco rejects lethal force cop bots after backlash.
So what, they were going to put robots on the street that are armed and can kill? And they haven't
with shotguns, or with grenades, and they'd send them in, and they could just blow people up.
So it's Ed 209 from RoboCop.
Essentially, yes. Yeah. And now they're saying, and then it caused a bit of a backlash. People were protesting, and so now the Board of Supervisors have unanimously banned the use of. But they're saying for now. So instead, they're giving the robot pepper spray, which would make RoboCop a rubbish movie.
All right, but why were they even considering this in the first place?
It's America!
Killer robots, are you kidding me?
San Francisco.
Come on, police officers put themselves in the line of fire every day in America. So anything that can remove them from harm and send a robot in to kill people instead.
Why is a robot doesn't need to kill, though. A robot can go in and
and also, these robots don't have knees.
Cut their arms off with big, crab
pincers. Exactly. Well, that would be preferable to... And then cauterise the wounds with some sort of flamethrower device. This is much better than killing people.
Yeah. But I think, these people are kind of being Luddites. This is obviously, we've seen in the battlefield the advances that have been made with drone technology. And
That's not good either.
No, it is. It is.
Leo, can you not see how this is open to exploitation? How people can hack into these robots, create armies, destroy the world. Can you not see this?
No, I don't see that, because I think people are much more fallible and much more likely to make mistakes or act according to bias than robots.
Ridiculous.
Wow.
I'm going to lend you RoboCop on DVD. This is ridiculous, right? No more killer robots on the street. That's my uncontroversial
I'll lend you the film about Harvey Milk.
That's irrelevant, Josh.
No, it's San Francisco. It's all about they're all about giving speeches, and if Harvey Milk was alive, he would not allow.
I thought it was the guy who first discovered milk.
He did. He invented milk.
In a way.
We've got to move on because we've got to take a break now. But I tell you what, in 2 minutes we're going to be talking about all sorts of things, including why air tags are not a good idea and how cows help to catch a criminal. See you in 2 minutes.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look through Thursday's newspapers with me, Andrew Doyle. So let's get back into it. Thursday's Times now, and an over-the-counter tracking device that has led to a rise in stalking.
Yeah, so Apple's AirTags are apparently used by stalkers, and Apple is being sued by two women. So these AirTag devices, basically they're the size of a 10p piece. They cost about 35 quid. And if you hide them in a device, so say, you're worried if your laptop gets nicked, you'll still be able to find it. You can hide this thing in a bag in anywhere, and it's basically traceable. The location is traceable using an Apple.
So is it legal, Leo? So that, for instance, if I wanted to check that my partner wasn't cheating on me and I slipped one of these into his wallet and he didn't know, am I breaking the law by tracking him in that way?
I don't know, but possibly. It's certainly.
I'm not saying I need to do that, by the way.
Certainly, there are sort of.
It's just interesting that you came up with that particular example.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, out of all the examples you could have come up with,
if you stalk or harass somebody and use these as part of that, then that's definitely illegal. So I don't know if that would count as illegal. But basically, Lauren Hughes in Texas, her ex-boyfriend placed an AirTag in the wheel well of her car and used it to track her, and then posted a photo and tagged Apple AirTags in the photo. Posted a photo of like a taco truck outside her house. Really sort of sinister
But also, I don't
stuff.
know if they should have said that it was Lauren Hughes of Travis County, Texas. That's probably giving it away, isn't it?
Does it sound? I mean, are Apple responsible for creating the technology?
Well, it's saying here it's become the weapon of choice of stalkers and abusers, along with binoculars and long photo lenses.
We shouldn't really be advertising it then, should we?
Well, I guess not. The problem is that Apples are just so darn easy to use.
They are.
That's the problem, is they're easy
Even
to
their
use.
stalking facilities.
And they've said, like, oh, we didn't make it for people to stalk.
Yeah, but they must have anticipated how it could be exploited.
And they're charging 35 quid for it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
That's well within a stalker's budget.
Come on, let's see the Apple, the real adverts that they were putting out.
OK, well, look, we're going to move on now to the Guardian. Well, we've all been there. A sad and lonely book signing.
Join the club. Stephen King, Margaret Atwood and more reassured debut author after lonely book launch. And someone tweeted, Chelsea Banning, she tweeted, she got upset and there were just two friends at this, her book launch for her first book, and then all these other authors came along and told all of their inspirational stories, how their first book launches, there was like no one there. And of course...
Really common, apparently.
Allegedly. I mean, you brought out a book recently.
And it was packed.
Put it right here.
It was rammed.
Hey!
Leo's actually holding the book up now.
So,
there it is. Did you have people turn up for yours? It's weird because I wasn't invited to that.
Oh yeah, I think we were. It was you were washing your hair.
Oh yeah, that would be what it very vigorously at
the back.
But yes, that's really lovely that people supposedly now her book has sort of shot up the Amazon charts. And
it's a bit like when when J.K. Rowling talks about all the rejection letters she got. I mean, her book, the Harry Potter book, got rejected something like 30 odd times.
Yeah.
I bet those publishers are kicking themselves rather now. But yeah, it is nice because your first book comes out, you're all excited, you expect at least some people there, and no one seems to care.
Yeah, that seemed amazing. She said like 37 people like RSVP'd.
Yeah.
It's amazing that none of them really turn up. I mean, I've been to a bunch of mates. I think there's nothing more amazing than someone bringing out a book. respect.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
right?
and you would go there, and if they're a friend, you're going to go and celebrate that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, you going to bring out a book? What's your book? Have you already had a book?
I need to write a book, so I've got something to sell after gigs.
I'm going to read a book. And
you should.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to read a book first.
Read a book first.
Yeah, if
see
anyone's
what
got
that's
any
about.
recommendations.
I went with a friend of mine, though. He was, I don't think he would mind me saying, he's a famous comic book writer. And I went with him, I was visiting, we were hanging out in Edinburgh, and then went to Waterstones. He said, I'm doing a book signing. And we walked up the stairs, and there was, like, no one. I was like, oh, do you want me to hang around for you? And then we turned the corner, and there was, like, 300 people queuing up. It was like, I was like, oh, OK, you might be all right, mate.
You'll be all right. All right, we're going to move on now to the Times. This is a story about cannabis. Benefits of cannabis, Leo?
Yeah, so this English couple in their 60s moved their family 200 miles away to the countryside to set up this sophisticated cannabis farm that funded their daughter's university fees and a fleet of luxury cars. So Edward McCann, 63, and his wife Linda, 60, in Wales, they set up this grow operation in a farm outbuilding and got caught. I'm not sure how they got caught, but I was surprised. I mean, they're obviously making a lot of money. They're making things like cannabis oil, cannabis-infused chocolate. So it was, quite a sort of bougie operation. It wasn't.
Isn't this a bit like Breaking Bad, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit, but with a much milder substance that's been legalised or decriminalised in many places. But the judge sentencing the family said the reality is that those engaged in this type of activity do not appreciate that cannabis factories are a blight on our communities. But it doesn't really explain how. I mean, they're making cannabis-infused chocolate.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but they are illegal. Let's just point that out.
I mean, lots of things are illegal.
But they've been given like 7 years, 8 years. Yeah. The mum got 6 years or something.
Prison?
Yeah, prison.
That does seem a bit hard.
That's a lot of prison time there. But the family had all denied being involved in the... And it's like, what?
Well, that might be why.
How did this get here?
maybe that's why they have such stringent prison sentences.
It might be they were smoking their supply and they'd just forgotten.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that. I mean, you've got to admire their entrepreneurial skills, don't you?
Absolutely. £3.5 million. Was it worth it? I quite admire that.
On the other hand, we've got to apply the law. That's the law. It's against the law.
Have you heard of tinned cannabis? I've never heard of this before. They said, which is an emerging...
I prefer it fresh.
Is it? Yeah, well, they say it's an emerging trend in the UK. I've never heard of tinned.
Like you can get it next to the spaghetti hoops.
Yeah, like sardines.
I genuinely don't know. This is outside of my...
No,
it's not. I think it's to stop. It stops it smelling. So smugglers used to tin drugs to sniffer dogs.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, I mean, it just goes to show, though, raising money for kids to put them through university, parents will do anything, won't they?
Well, also the fact that they need $3.5 million.
It's an expensive university they went to.
Yeah, it was like the fact they keep on pointing out to get her through uni. It's like, OK, she could have taken a loan out.
Or they could have just had a second job at the local budgins. I mean, that would have done it.
You think that would be enough?
Well, yeah, I mean, surely.
OK, but they wanted those fleet of luxury cars.
That was important as well. Got to move on to this story. This is our final story for the night. This is the Daily Mail. And this is a story about cows catching crooks.
Oh, yeah, so this is cows herd on-the-run criminal into the arms of police. So normally people herd cows, but these cows actually herded... I mean, they've put in so many puns in this. They herded a criminal towards
3 puns.
Yeah.
It was
a
thin
moo line.
It was a high-stakes incident. He was told to stop running, but it clearly went in one ear and out the other. Another police officer tweeted, "Trying to escape, how dare he?" Yeah. Another said, "This is terrifying. His life was at stake."
Yeah, but you're being so dismissive of this, Leo. But didn't you win a prize for the best punster on the circuit?
Yeah, with better puns than this.
Oh, OK.
Is it even this a pun? Lure into their own hoofs? That's not a pun.
This is a good. This is a good one. Another police officer said, "Suspect is to face the music."
OK, but rather than just criticise the newspaper for its terrible puns, what about the substance of the
We're criticising the police for their puns.
No, let's criticise the cows. I never knew cows were a bunch of grasses. And cows are not supposed to work with pigs. They're different.
There we
Leo,
go.
you should have written this article. Do you have any thoughts, Josh, about the actual article itself?
I think it just shows how bad policing is in this country that now we're relying on bovines.
Yes, it is. Well, it's better than...
That's what they're doing. They're arresting feminists across the land for talking about sex being binary.
Yes.
And now the cows have had to step in.
But at least they're not relying on killer robots like they are in San Francisco. So that's all we've got time for. Thanks to my guests, Leo and Josh. I, of course, will be back tomorrow for Headliners at 11 o'clock, and that will be with the lovely Leo Kearse and the big dog, Nick Dixon. Make sure you tune in. See you tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB